Welcome to Teen Up, a podcast that digs deeper into the thoughts of teenagers' mind about the wonders of the world.
If you're new here, I'm your host, Isabella.
And I'm Glenn. If you're not, welcome back.
Here is a quick disclaimer. We are two teenagers that are doing our best to research everything. However, we are not experts, so if we offend anyone or say something wrong, we want to apologize in advance. Please email us to tell us what was wrong. Thank you. Earlier this month, we talked about the difference between human intelligence and animal intelligence. But what makes something intelligent? Does AI count as intelligent?
So, to understand that question, we need to know what is intelligence.
Right.
Some of the studies shows that intelligence, this kind of understanding, is implicit. So, we kind of have some basic understanding of intelligence. So what we are using today is from a research studied in the United States. But you have to keep in mind that intelligence differs from culture to culture.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it makes sense. For example, in America, according to this research, people value things like practical problem solving, verbal ability, and social competence. And so the first one is basically that you can reason. And yeah, that is super American thing to say. Like our literature class, we just have to reason a lot. And, all the academic writing that we do, it's based on, logical thinking and reasoning.
Right.
Yeah, and we can really see this as a international student, which we did talk to more about in our YouTube videos. So remember to go look at that. But anyway, the second one is speaking clearly and articulately, which is verbal ability. So people kind of like associate this with intelligence, like how smart you are in a way.
Right.
Because like we said 2 weeks ago, being able to speak is one of the most impressive things that humans can do.
Right.
Like language, speaking, that is super impressive. So I'd say it's very logical to imply this as a way of measuring intelligence.
Intelligence, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I personally do this, but not in a bad way though.
What do you mean?
I guess it's because if the other person speaks clearly, I can understand them better. So I would just assume that they know better.
You mean speaking more clearly as in explaining things better?
Yeah, and like more articulate.
It is true. Like when someone is only able to say like, oh, this food tastes so good, versus someone saying like, oh, the salt ratio really brings out what taste and stuff like that,
That sounds smart.
Yeah, that sounds really smart. Yeah, it's true. I can see what you mean here.
It's something that we do, but we don't really think about it. But yeah, and I think it's very logical how people really like value others' intelligence on this.
Right.
So the last one is actually pretty interesting. It includes behaviors such as accepting others for what they are, admitting mistakes, and displaying interest in the world around us. So people actually associate this with intelligence or being human. So I saw this research that it's done by Yale University. They actually have like a bunch of workers working, and they put in a robot. They have two groups. So one group is a robot that doesn't make mistakes. Perfect. The other one is a robot that makes mistakes like humans and apologize for it.
Okay.
So their finding is that when a robot makes mistakes, the group tends to communicate better and they tend to be more efficient.
Why?
I guess it can be something that relates to how we associate intelligence with admitting mistakes. Because this robot is kind of like more human and people in the group can accept it better.
Then there's no point in inventing robots.
No, I guess it's like something about how people work and how robots affect us. That's like the point of the study, but I think it's fitting for this topic because it kind of shows that how we actually do care about others admitting mistakes and, being a little bit more human-y.
Yeah, it is annoying when someone doesn't admit their own mistakes.
Right. I guess what the research is saying is that having a robot is not necessarily more efficient or like better for the team in a way, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But what I see there is that how humans do actually look at others with these type of qualities, and it's kind of a proof.
Right.
So for our society, I feel like we value something less and maybe others more. For example, maybe we value critical thinking skills a little bit less, I'd say.
Right. Yeah. I guess as ever since like when we were small, no one has asked us what is the reason behind, this physics question, or why is the answer for this like this. We're only asked for the answer, never the reason. So I guess right, we do view less importance on critical thinking, and teachers, like foreign teachers, are always asking about why do we think like this, like what's the evidence, what's the reason behind this. But people in our culture don't really ask that.
Yeah. So I looked into critical thinking because it's a very interesting topic.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of the above can be done by AI now, speaking fluently. I mean, critical thinking maybe less so. And, show compassion. It can be coded.
Mm-hmm.
I looked into critical thinking, feeling that it could be something that set us apart from artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So critical thinking means that when we encounter something puzzling or a problem, we use our skills, our past understanding to try to solve it.
Right.
We use logical reasoning, assumptions, or explanations to understand this.
Right.
But this point really pops up to me, saying that, and I quote, if the individual is not interested in what was observed, an inquiry typically does not begin. And inquiry and critical thinking require motivation along an inquisitive disposition. So it means that critical thinking, or like this deep learning, or like thinking, because we call that deep learning,
Mm-hmm.
or like this learning process requires a motivation.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's something that the computer doesn't have, which is namely curiosity.
That is true.
Right, that is a very interesting point, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because how human learns is through curiosity.
Right.
Basically, our whole podcast is based on curiosity.
True. Mm-hmm.
But this type of curiosity is not seen in computers.
Right. They're only going to be fed information by humans, and they're never going to ask for more. Or I don't know, do they ask for more?
I mean, probably not yet. And I just think that motivation is what set us apart at this point, I'd say.
Right. Always strive to be better.
Right, and that's what set us from the computers. So after the break, we will wrap up this season and discuss what we think about human intelligence.
Welcome back. Now we're going to discuss about human intelligence.
So I guess going back to previous episodes, human intelligence is special in some ways, but not that special in other ways. Super broad.
I guess it's true. It's called human intelligence for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Towards human itself. I wouldn't say that animals are any less than we are. Perhaps they haven't reached the point of evolution.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like maybe just like we mentioned in curiosity, maybe it's just that their curiosity hasn't reached the point that they want to know more than the skills they have to live.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right, that is totally a valid point. Maybe they're still on their way of evolution to get there.
I mean, we're not gonna know if the planet dies, but
yeah.
And AI, I think it is going to get better and better.
But I guess for now, I just don't see it taking over. For those people saying that AI is going to take over humankind, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, AI is good, but it hasn't got to the point of taking over us because we are superior in other ways that AI isn't able to surpass,
Right.
like emotions or deep understand. It will never be able to understand everything like we do at our first glance.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like the fundamental difference is how we learn versus how AI learn. At least for my understanding. I'm not sure if people are working on that, but we learn from one point and then we imply other things from that point.
Yeah.
But AI is fed with data and they just, learn that data. So it's fundamentally different. That's what I feel like make AI, not as smart or not as capable of human.
Yeah. But I do think that we have to recognize the parts that AI is able to do a lot of things that we can't, like calculating something perfectly.
Right. It's basically what they do because calculation, like the whole thing is based on calculation.
Right.
I mean, humans are not good at everything. We are not like the best at everything.
Yeah, true.
Computers are better at calculating than us. They can calculate a ton of stuff that humans can't. And, like a panther runs faster than human ever can.
Mhm.
Birds can fly. Fish can breathe underwater.
Right.
Like there are a ton of things that we can't do. Probably not intelligence wise,
Right, right.
but I guess we should stay in our own lane in a way.
True, true. We do have our workarounds. Like we can't fly, so we build planes, and we can't breathe underwater. We have submarines and stuff. Yeah, to adjust to these environments.
That is the genius of human.
Right. To always look for ways to solve things that we cannot.
And maybe that is what we talked about earlier, like curiosity and always wanting to solve things.
Right.
And I think that just sets us apart in a way.
So throughout this season, we talked about in the first episode, we talked about how humans might be different from animals because we have the ability to cook. That is a very good viewpoint and a very valid answer. It is true that we are able to cook and do more things because we have heat and fire.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow we're smarter than other animals. We have curiosity, we have motivations to do a lot of things.
Right, right.
Perhaps it's because like we can live like a really well life and we have other time to do things that animals cannot because they're using so much time trying to.
Yeah, I think that is like a point that people brought up all the time.
Right.
And I guess final take. I think human intelligence is so fascinating that nobody's really gonna understand it.
Mhm. Mhm. And we're always learning more and more.
About ourselves and about the universe.
Right.
So I guess this is it for this season. We don't have an answer for why humans are smarter. Because we know that other species can do certain stuff too.
Mhm. So I guess all in all, humans are still learning like animals are as well as AI. And I would say there's no limit to intelligence because our curiosity is always going to help us with gaining and learning more.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see.
We're never going to know, but we'll see. We'll see one day. Thank you for listening to this episode. Remember to like, subscribe, and share our channel.
Also, comment down below if you have any thoughts. You could click on the bell to get notified when we upload a new video as well.
Thank you and bye.